Welcome back. Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And in studio, I have a guest that comes from a recommendation of one of the people that definitely is beloved by me and many others. Closest thing to a historical figure that's living and building legacies, even right now. One of the most creative people sent the email and she said, hey, can you get this brother to connect? I'm talking about Mama Aneb. You all should know her, Dr. House. And she said, I've known this brother for a long time and all the things he's doing, and he's an author and connecting in community. And Detroit is Different as a platform that should share this story. So, Matthew Jones, how are you today?
I'm blessed. How about yourself?
All is well. All is well. So with this whole scope of first, let's just go to that connection before we get to the classic relationships. In writing a book and knowing somebody like Dr. House, and clearly you probably know so many different other people and everything, even just like passing that along in this journey, what was that connection that said, okay, this story is something that I think she will appreciate and get to more folks?
Well, Aneb and I met in 1974 when I was incarcerated in prison. She came in as one of the professors from Wayne State to teach a 2-year course that allowed the brothers who had an associate's degree to get their bachelor's degree.
Okay, so from there, that's the connection, but now it obviously stays going for a long time.
Absolutely. We maintain contact through all these years. She's an absolutely beautiful person, sister, warrior, has always been there supportive for me, and I've always appreciated who she was and what she's done for the community.
Okay. All right. And with the book that you just released, what were you thinking the take of like, okay, check this out, when you pass it along to her?
Well, I asked her to do the forward because of my admiration for her. And she's one of the persons who I've experienced great relationships and activities with over the years. So what better person to ask to do a forward than someone you admire, someone who's been an activist all of her life?
Talk about it. Talk about it. Talk about it. And if you don't know her story, even more reason to go on your own and dig it up. Because,
absolutely.
A lot of movements. Now, we always start these Detroit is Different with your Detroit story. So the first question I always start with is your family's ties to Detroit. How many generations deep? What was the connection? What was the relationship to Detroit?
Well, my family and I moved to Detroit. I was born in Florida.
Where at?
And Deerfield, Florida. And my father came to Detroit and as a result of him, we had no relatives in Detroit prior to him coming. Came to Detroit, stayed for 4 weeks, and came back to take his whole family, which consisted of my mother and 3 older sisters. So I arrived in Detroit when I was about 1 or 2 years of age.
Wow.
And have been here ever since.
Okay, so Deerfield, Florida, you said. Where is that at in Florida? Definitely, we got some ties to Florida in my family, but where in the footprint?
Deerfield, it was about half a mile west of Jacksonville.
Okay. So we're getting like northern Florida. That's like kind of that Georgia. That's that Georgia-Florida line. Do you still have family there? Have you visited?
We still have family there, but I have never gone back to visit family. That's one of my plans next year is to go back and find family because my father came from a family of 12. And so we've never gone back to connect with any of the relatives, but that's one of my things that's on my bucket list is to go back this year and connect with those family members who are still living. Okay.
So coming to Detroit, you're, Lord knows, you definitely probably are still getting a grasp of it all, but what neighborhood do you remember growing up as like where your family stayed the most as a child?
I grew up in the Black Bottom. That's where we arrived and that's where we lived until, I would say, until about 10.
Okay. Where at in Black Bottom?
Van Dyke, Chene and Gratiot area.
Okay. Okay. And in there, I'm guessing, as you said, no other family here. What was it like for you're a child, but I'm guessing your older sisters, your mom, your dad, how are they connecting in getting, I guess, uh, acclimated and cultured into Detroit in that transition over that time?
Right. Well, my dad was always a worker,
Mm,
and so he immediately went out and acquired jobs. Now, the other component to that is when we came to Detroit, my cousins, my aunt also came to Detroit about
okay.
a week after we did. So there were
Okay.
two families living in the same household.
Mm,
My father, my family, immediate family, and my aunt, which is my father's sister.
mm,
She had 4 kids.
okay.
So that was like 9 kids, 4 adults in the same house.
Okay, that's I can only imagine the activity that was always happening. Eh,
Absolutely.
okay, and you said you had 3 older sisters. Did you have, some, boy cousins on that side, with your aunt?
Yeah, boy cousin on the my aunt's side, and we always hung out,
Okay,
played, and had fun in the streets, the whole neighborhood. We own the neighborhood. We just went out and just being typically kids.
okay. Alright, so you're there till 10. Where do you move at 10, and are you displaced moved, or are you moving because you all found another place where you all wanted to go?
Well, we moved when I was 10 when my parents separated.
Mm,
And we moved from Mitchell and Mac to the east side, Forest and Van Dyke
wow.
area.
Okay. All right. Forest and Van Dyke, that's definitely a community that we're thinking about, the Juggaliers, Southeastern, and that neighborhood, that like pocket. What was it like when you all get there? And then also, definitely the impacts of a divorce and separation can stand out in a child's mind. What was that community like as you get there?
Well, the community was very welcoming. And I was the only boy in the family, and so I immediately connected with other kids on the block and became very friends, very connected with them, and enjoyed the neighborhood was always open. There was always seniors who looked out for the kids. We played in the street, went to the park. We did typical kid things and had fun doing that. And the community was so overwhelmingly giving
Mm,
to all of the kids. They looked out for each other. And of course, if our parents were not there and somebody did something wrong, then of course they got checked
mm,
by a senior automatically.
mm. Okay. So if as that is kind of happening in that neighborhood, what do you think was do you think that was just special in that neighborhood? Do you think that that was just what was happening at the time? What stood up to have like I guess such a connection and fellowship amongst neighbors?
Well, I think it was the normal process for black folks at the time. Because if you remember back in the 60s, 50s, and 60s, blacks as a community were together. They were connected, they looked out, they communicated, they supported each other. And so moving from Mitchell to Forest and Van Dyke, it was a natural transition, but there was no distinction between the love and the comfort that we experienced as kids.
Okay. All right. So now let's I guess get into like high school. Where do you go for high school?
I didn't. I dropped out.
Mm,
Barber Middle School was the last school that I attended.
mm,
At the time, I didn't see education as a future.
mm.
I mean, I was a good student, did what needed to be done, but I didn't see education as a future. My focus at that time was primarily getting the job,
Okay.
making money.
Mm,
And so in the eighth grade, I decided to drop out
mm.
of Barber Middle School, but also realized that I needed to get some kind of a skill in order to make money.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in Trumley Trade School,
Mm,
which is on Van Dyke and Harper.
mm.
And because I've done some work, painting, then I took up painting as a trade at Trumley Trade School. I stayed there for a year and then just dropped out completely at the age of 16.
Okay, and let's I guess also this is just the question. Even in that year, that young, the trade school was open to welcoming you even from not completing high school.
Right,
Hmm,
absolutely.
okay,
It's Detroit Public School, and anyone has the opportunity to attend.
okay, all right. So from there, you're like, okay, school. I need to get to some money faster. I'm thinking I need to just get working. What was the thought process?
Well, the thought process, I've always been a worker. I think from I was the age of 10, my mother joined the Nation of Islam. And part of their responsibilities at that time, all members had to sell newspapers, Muhammad Speaks. And so my mother brought her papers home. She wasn't a salesperson. She wasn't a hustler. But because I'm 10 and, hey, I like money, I told my mom, give me the papers and I'll go down and sell them. So I went out on Gratiot and Chene and sold all the papers, the 20 papers that I had in a half an hour.
Okay, and at this time, I'm not aware of like what the year and the era was. This a time, did your mother join as the first mosque is there in Black Bottom, or did she join after everything that happened in Detroit and led to a lot of the nation settling and having a headquarters in Chicago?
She joined when the first mosque opened in the Black Bottom.
Wow.
Yep.
So and that was as I interviewed one of Elijah Muhammad's nephews 2 years back. It starts as the Temple of Islam even before the Nation of Islam.
Right.
So she's she's joining then. Okay.
Right. Early stages of the organization evolving.
Okay. What was the message and connection that that you think your mother saw and would like, was like, okay, what do you think was that connection that made her say, I want to join the nation?
I think she was frustrated, one, with the behavior of my father, which led to them being separated. But I also thought she was an independent woman and she enjoyed being around Black folks. And the message at the time that was being delivered encouraged self-respect, independence, creativity, and all those things were attractive to her because she was an independent, outspoken person. And so being around Black folks, and these were folks who were outspoken, made a difference to her. And she said, well, that's something that I can relate to, so I'm going to join.
Okay.
Now, my father, on the other hand, he didn't join. Now, he was raised in the Baptist church. And in retrospect, I'm thinking that might have led, and I don't know if she decided to join the nation prior to the separation or after the separation, but that may have been a component relative to their separation. One of the components.
Okay. All right. So that's, as we've gone through this archive, and many others uplift this, but the roots of the Nation of Islam starting in Detroit and the journey of what happens with the organization here in Detroit really gives a great framing of what becomes of some of the tenets and ways the organization still functions to this day. But that definitely stands out. So you're there at that time and you figure out I guess you have a skill set. I'm guessing maybe a gift of gab that you could sell, or you just moving around. What was your skill set when it came to approaching and just even selling the Muhammad Speaks?
Well, I've always had a gift of gab. I always was outspoken, always wanted to learn. And because I was able to communicate very well, it was very easy and comfortable for me to approach any Black person that came down the street and asked them to buy a Muhammad Speaks newspaper.
Okay. All right. So now let's, I guess, pick back up with that story of you're out of trade school. You have some skill sets as far as like you can be a salesman. You got the gift of gab. What do you get connected to? What was your focus at that point in time?
Well, when I left Trumley Trade School, I started looking for a full-time job. Prior to that, I would say from the age of 13 until Trumley Trade, I've always worked somewhere, doing something, painting in the neighborhood, odd jobs, didn't matter. But whatever legitimate way there was for me to make some money, I was always about hustling, always about making money. And so when I left Trumley Trade School, I decided to look for a full-time job and just happened to be on 8 Mile in Wyoming one day and went into the big boys operation, filled out the application, was hired on the spot.
Okay. All right. So, I want to highlight this just in Detroit history facts. So, chain restaurant, Big Boys, Elias Brothers, definitely here in Michigan and Ohio, many locations. I would want to say like, especially the one I was actually driving down Jefferson the other day, thinking about the one like across the street from Belle Isle and just what you know, the many amounts of times where like family would gather there and connect, but it was the closest thing to like a chain restaurant that was like rooted here. It seemed like that connected to people. So
Right.
you end up working there. Do you work back of house, front of house? What are you working?
Well, they assigned me to the restaurant that was on Grand River downtown,
Okay.
Grand River in Woodwood,
Mm.
and that's where I started. Now, they also had a second restaurant in Cadillac Square.
Okay.
Now, I wouldn't work when they needed extra help. Then, of course, I would transfer over there some weekends.
Mhm.
But for the most part, the Grand River Woodwood location was where I was stationed at, and I started off as a porter,
Okay.
cleaning tables, etc. And about I would say a month after there, one of the cooks didn't come in,
Mm.
and so the manager asked me did I wanted to learn how to become a chef. Of course. Now I was portering behind the counter, making buns, doing the cook piece.
Mhm.
So I was doing 2 jobs
Okay.
and being paid 1 job.
Okay.
Salary. But that was okay because it was fun.
Hmm.
I was enjoying myself. Met some beautiful people, and so I'm learning because my philosophy has always been I want to learn.
Okay.
Wherever I'm at, whatever I'm doing, I want to learn. I want to acquire more knowledge and more skills, and that's what I did. And I did so well that he made me a head cook.
Okay. All right. And were you cooking before this? Did you already kind of
Never had any experience
Okay.
whatsoever about cooking.
okay? So you learn on the job for real.
OJT, absolutely.
All right.
And when it comes to food, I'm a great eater.
Okay.
Going into a restaurant and getting behind the counter and cooking, looking at the orders, getting them out in time, absolutely not. Very
Yep.
first time. But it was a skill. It was an opportunity. Again, I've always been a learner.
Mm.
So this would simply be another avenue of picking up a skill set.
Okay. All right. How long do you stay there?
I stayed there for a year and a half.
Okay. All right. And then at that age, I know people are like year and a half, but at that age, that's a long time because I mean, it's like,
Right.
you know, a good percentage of your life, especially.
Absolutely. And I was working full time, Monday
Okay.
through Friday, 8 hours a day. It was good. Now, of course, with the other restaurants, from time to time, they would need someone to come in and relieve and help them out. And I would do that. I went to probably 6 or 7 different restaurants in that time period just to help out because they needed someone to give them a hand.
Okay. All right. So at that point, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm enjoying life.
Mhm.
At 16, I had my own apartment
Mm.
and just loving it.
Okay. And then after that year and a half at Big Boys, do you go to another restaurant? Where do you get
So
set?
after that year and a half at Big Boys, I got a job at one of the shipping companies on the east side on Finkel and I think it was Joy,
Mm.
packing shipping trucks
Mm.
that they brought in the merchandise and we would stack it up, getting ready for the following day for the drivers to make their deliveries.
So warehouse working.
Warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Definitely. Yeah, that relationship still exists today.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
And I stayed there until I turned 18, and then from there, of course, again, my long range goal was always go to the plant.
Mm.
And so as soon as 18 kicked in, I was at the plant, filled the application in, got hired the same day.
Okay, so it was the plant was not usually accepting anybody under 18.
Right.
So you knew once I get 18, I can get in there.
That was it.
What plant did you go to?
Ford Motor Company.
Okay. All right.
Frame plant at the Rouge Complex.
Okay. All right. Down in River Rouge. All right. And what was the work that you were doing? And how did you take to it? I know you said you were a hard worker. What was that like?
Well, in the frame plant, they put together all of the frames for all the automobiles that they built. And I worked on a line where the welders would weld the pieces together. We would take it off the line and put them on another line.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fun.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we used to joke because we were so good at it. My coworkers and I, we would never, ever miss a piece to come off the line.
Okay.
But we would play almost like playing games because it was easy work. But it could have been taxing if you were not a worker, but because I'm a worker, it was easy.
I would say probably the more taxing thing is, I mean, that was back when cars was made with metal and not fiberglass. I'd imagine you're probably picking up, I don't know, somewhere between like 60 and 100 pounds, like 1,000 times a day. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. No, it was more like 50
okay,
pounds, right.
50
The whole
pounds.
frame was about 50 pounds.
But still picking it up over and over and over and over and over again if you're not.
Now the benefits, of course, I was like working out.
Mhm.
I mean, body-wise, physically, I was there
Okay.
and picking up the muscles that you use in your shoulders, your arms,
Mm.
and I kind of bulked up. That was not intentional,
But it happened
But it happened
as
because
time went.
exactly.
Okay. All right. And you're there. You got the job at the plant. Everything's falling in place. Something definitely leads you down a different path.
Right.
Where does that come?
Well, from the age of 5 or 6, in the Black Bottom, one day I was walking down the street with a relative and observed a white cop beating down a brother.
Mm.
Now, it was clear that the brother was intoxicated, and
Yeah.
this white cop was constantly beating him. And so it bothered me. So I asked the adult relative that I was with, why is this white cop beating this brother?
Yeah.
And he couldn't give me an answer.
Mm.
I said, why are they doing that? Well, that's just the way things are.
Yeah.
I saw that several more times. And again, asked the same question. Why is these white cops beating down black men? And
Mhm.
in each incident, the brothers were intoxicated. And so that led to a dislike and eventually grew into a hatred for white cops.
Mm.
As from that first time throughout my teen years, we heard about it, and I even observed that later on as a teenager, of white cops beating down brothers. Now, back then, there was a police unit they called the Big Four.
I was going to say, I was just about to ask about stress in the Big Four that I've heard stories of, and also even what comes about from the rebellion, but given like a timetable of it. But please open up more about the Big Four and like when you witnessed this over time.
Now, the Big Four, they call a specialized unit, and it was 4 burly white guys riding in a sedan. Now, they would drive through the neighborhood just to harass black men. Now, the harassment entailed stopping, calling a brother to the car, come over here. I mean, in a derogatory manner, spare it. So they were searching just for the heck of it. And that process continued. And each time that I heard that, it made me more angry about it. And in one instance, before I dropped out of Barber Junior High School, we were kind of hanging around the school as teenagers normally do. When you get out, you don't go nowhere right away. You just talk around, joke, and have fun. Big Four pulled up and started telling teenagers, and these were 14, 15, 16-year-old black kids, get up against the car.
Yeah.
Say, what the heck is going on? And again, just to harass. Nothing but pure harassment. And they told everybody to move on because you wasn't supposed to hang around the school after school was out. Of course, we knew that was a lie because we did it every day.
Yeah.
Normal behavior. But that particular day, the Big Four said, get the so-and-so out of here. And so we moved. And of course, everybody that was in my little small group, we cursed at them under our breath. So we didn't want to hear anything. We didn't want no issues. And so from that point on, the hatred that I created and developed from white brutality stayed with me. One day,
I'm gonna ask, when that happens, like what year we talking?
we're talking early 60s.
Okay, so like maybe 62, 63.
Right, 63, 64.
Okay. All right. So so even as the rebellion happens, I don't know what your response is at that time, but I'm guessing you have a different scope of it. As many black folks at the time had a different scope than definitely what media was saying and even political characters at the time.
Right. Well, I wasn't here during the rebellion. I was locked up. I was incarcerated.
You were incarcerated.
I was in prison, right, before then.
Okay.
I went to prison at 18.
Wow.
And the background to the prison situation, the event that occurred. Was getting off work one night from Ford's, and at that time I had a car. Bought my own car. Was there for 2 weeks and bought me a car.
Okay.
And was going home to sleep. Now my one of my partners, we were in class together at Barber Junior High, was at the corner, flagged me down, talked to him. He said, "Hey, we need a ride on the west side." Okay, get in. I ain't going to West Special. Get in. That's my partner. And he had another brother with him. Okay, hey, what's up? So I drove them to the west side, and he told me that we were going to rip off a white person. Now, keep in mind the 7 or 8 brothers that I hung out with on a regular basis, we all hated white folks as a result of the police brutality.
Yeah.
And one of the brothers that I hung out with, his older brother enlisted in paratroopers. And so after basic training, he came back, and when he came back, he brought guns with him because that was okay back in the day on the plane.
Yeah.
Now, we never had any intent in terms of creating any serious harm to white folks. We just hated white folks because of the brutality that we witness and we hear about on a regular basis. But again, if the opportunity presented itself for us to somehow get back at white folks, at the white system, then of course we would take advantage of that. And that particular night, the brother told me that they were going to rip off a white store owner. Okay, I mean, I'm down if it's going to get back at white folks. And so what happened is that my partner and the brother that I didn't know went into the store, and something happened. And they ran out, got in the car, so let's go. So I'm driving off, and I said, what's going on? What happened? He said the guy was reaching for something, and the brother that was with him, he had a gun, and I didn't know he was armed.
Wow.
At the time, and he shot the store owner. And so dropped him off, and I went home. Now the next day we hooked up again because again that was an unfortunate situation, but the anger was still there in terms of harming white folks.
Yeah.
Getting back at the system because the system represented racist white folks, and any white person that had a store or other businesses, they were victims. They were targets because that was our only way as teenagers of getting back at the system. We were not interested in armed contact, armed revolution. That just wasn't our thought process. We were too young. We hadn't done any reading regarding that. But the fact that we wanted to get back at the system is what happened.
Wow.
And ironically, someone took my license plate, and as we were driving, we got pulled over. And
so this is the next day?
This is the next day.
Okay, and you're back all together.
Back all together on the way to somebody else's house. We got pulled over, and the cops searched the car, and the brother had put the gun under the driver's seat.
Wow.
Found the gun, taken it down to the station, run ballistics, found out it was the same gun that killed the white guy.
Wow. So, man, that's a heavy story. And even though that happens, and what year is that?
This is 66.
So even though that happens in 1966, as I've shared and I've uplifted on this podcast before, situations like that even happen to this day in 2025 into 2026, just especially at that age. As I've uplifted, probably like 17 to maybe even like 32, the probability of me being in a vehicle, either as a passenger or as the driver, where, one of the guys I know has a firearm on him is very high. Me asking, anything about like, I guess the street term is it clean or anything, like I'm not, you're just not conscious of that. And now so many other things just always come into play, let alone like an incident like that where you're younger, you you've already shared, you have a rage inside of you towards a lot of these things, but even asking and layouts and things like that, like, man, that is a heavy situation to be in, especially at 18 when you have the job that you were already like in that path. And in a lot of ways, I'm thinking you're just like we always say, you just kind of these your homies, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
I'm rolling with them. They my guys. These are friends. Hanging out with friends.
Right. Right.
Mm, mm, mm.
And so during that process, when we were down, and of course the detectives ran the ballistics, and of course we were charged with first degree murder,
Mm.
and I'm kind of freaking out.
Oh, I can only imagine.
And so while we're in the county jail, it went into, and this was like in, I want to say, October of '66 that we were arrested.
Yeah.
And we were in the county, I was in the county jail prior to the rebellion
Mm.
in '67. But
So you're as the trial's playing out and everything, you're in county jail basically from October through what happens with the rebellion.
right,
And I'm sure just well, first off, I can uh, with what you shared and the image that is often portrayed of who we are as black men in America, I can only imagine that story probably made some type of headlines, how it played out and everything, especially that the store owner lost their life during that incident too. And the first question I gotta say is representation. Did you all have any form of defense?
well, we had an attorney, and to my surprise, my mother obtained an attorney
Mm,
because I didn't think she had the resources
yeah.
for that. But we could have gotten a court-appointed attorney, but she did obtain an attorney.
Okay.
And of course, they negotiated, and we were charged with first-degree murder. But they were able to negotiate and get it down to second-degree murder, which makes a difference relative to what kind of sentence you may get.
Yeah.
Now, when they reduced it from first degree to second degree, we went back to court and we were sentenced.
Mm,
At the time of the sentence, the judge, Robert Colombo, was the judge who sentenced us. Went through. I basically want to make sure that you are examples of what we do with black boys who commit crimes, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah.
And when he announced the sentence of life
Mm,
in prison, I almost fainted.
wow.
In my mind, life.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me I'm gonna be gone for the rest of my life?
Wow.
And so, but I didn't faint. I just took it. But when I got back to the county jail and to the cell block and shared with the guys there, the old heads, said, "No, young blood, you're good. You're not going to be in prison for the rest of your life."
Hmm.
Because with first degree murder, if you're sentenced, then there is life.
Hmm.
Until the time you die, you're there.
Hmm.
Unless you get an appeal or get the conviction overturned. But second degree life, which means that you have to serve a minimum of 10 calendar years.
Hmm.
After the 10th year, you become eligible for parole. Doesn't mean you may make it, but you become eligible, so the opportunity to eventually get out is there.
Mm. Yeah. Yes, you share that. Like, man, it's so many things that as I'm went to Northwestern and a lot of the and my time at Northwestern, the I guess my friends at the time and still a lot of my homies are still there, but like Dexter, Carter, Blaine, and everything, and you learn so much of about incarceration as people go in. And I remember the first person I know that got natural life, it was like, damn, natural life? We were just so used to being like, okay, you're looking at like 15 to 25 years, which I ain't necessarily saying 15 to 25 years is like cool either, but natural life, it was like, damn, you can get natural life?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So,
And another component to while we were in the county jail, during when rebellion broke
yeah.
out, the cell block that I was in faced Gratiot. And one evening, as we were listening to the news and reading the newspapers of everything, I looked out the window and I see this enormous tank, military tank, rolling down the street on Gratiot Avenue. And I was just blown away. I mean, this tank looked like it was 50 feet wide, taking up the whole street, rolling down the city of Detroit. I couldn't believe it. Why is there a need for a military tank? Just blew my mind. And of course, the guys on the block, we talked about it. But that vision, that image of a tank rolling down Gratiot Avenue, there was the tank was going south, downtown. I guess wherever they were stationed at, they were coming from like Gratiot and the expressway to downtown. But just watching it roll down, it's like a movie.
Yeah, I know it had to be surreal. So even in this, and also this is also like that testament to a mother's love and connection to stand and move forward with getting you representation and what that meant for, because it could have definitely gone in other ways.
Absolutely.
So as you begin a prison sentence, and I don't know when you get your sentence there, where do you go? How long before you end up in the program where you're like, okay, let me go back to school here?
Right. So when we left county jail, that was in January of
68.
68. Went to Jackson State Prison, and that's where every person that's been convicted will go, is what they call quarantine. Everybody has to go through quarantine to do some assessment in terms of education, where they're going to be shipped at, that kind of thing, where you're going to do your actual sentence. Went there, and one of the counselors strongly suggested that I get my GED, because dropping out in 8th grade, and said, get your GED because you need to get some education. We stayed there about 2 months, and from there we went to Ionia, which was Ionia Reformatory, and stayed there, I would say 3 years. Now, while at Ionia, I became a clerk for one of the school teachers. Brother Polk Wright, just love him. But he shared with me one day that there was discussion that they were going to bring in college classes for brothers to take who have a high school diploma. Education. And he said, Jones, you need to take this GED test. And of course, they didn't have a study guide, so he brought the study book in for me. I studied it and aced it. Now, to my surprise, dropping out in the 8th grade, I had no knowledge of what high schoolers took relative to classes, math, science, none of that. Did not have a clue. But I studied that book and aced it. And I was just totally shocked and surprised, but also was blessed because God allowed me to be able to take a test of something that I had no knowledge of. And so what I did was what I would consider the process of elimination, looking at the questions and deciding which one made more sense than the other.
Which actually that method is always was brought up about a lot of those standardized tests. It's what's the deductive reasoning. So it's the example could be something like what color is the sky, and it'll be like red, orange, and then one will say like teal, and it's like I know it ain't red, I know it ain't orange, so let me just pick teal. Like the deductive reasoning is the method in which many people say that's the best way to go about standardized tests.
Right, exactly. And so I was really surprised that I aced it because I'm thinking passing was fine with me, but when you ace it, that means you're kind of smart. And so after taking the test, I was able to sign up for the college class. Baker College was a college that they initially approved to come in and provide college classes for the brothers, and signed up. Now, prior to the college classes coming in, I made a decision that the only way I was going to get out of prison at 10 years was education.
Wow.
Somehow. And then I started reading
Mm.
and reading and reading. Every day I read a book. Didn't matter what it was. Anything between 2 pages, 2 covers, I read it.
So let's start kind of in that story too.
Okay.
And there's a lot of brothers that you know, in that situation, take the books. Like one of my closest homies, Dr. Yusuf Bunchy Shakur, like he, as I say, he eats books. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, what are some of the books you start reading, and then what do you end up getting into? And let's start there, and then I got the next question.
Well, I can't remember a lot of the books because it was novel fiction. I read the capitalism, communism, socialism, anything that had print, I wanted to read.
And at that time, as I know, definitely today, there are some books that that cannot, that are not able to, like, you can't get if you're incarcerated in Michigan, and some books you can. Were there a lot of books banned at the time that you couldn't get access to, or was it pretty much open for whatever you
pretty much open? There were no books that were banned. And
Okay.
because, again, this desire to read more, I also started reading the dictionary. I also started reading book on words, the definition, using them in sentences. So it's like I'm discovering who I am as a Black man, knowledge-wise, and I was surprised.
Yeah.
And so after reading, I would say about 100 books, we used to get the Michigan Chronicle in the prison so we can stay in touch with what's going on in the city. And I read where one of my classmates in elementary school had passed.
From Barber.
Well, no, this was in Jones Elementary.
Oh, okay. Even before Barber.
Before Barber, Jones Elementary. He had passed. And so it bothered me. He was murdered by another brother. And so it bothered me so that I decided to write a letter to the editor, encouraging and asking brothers and sisters to not harm each other, to love each other more, to be kind to each other, to appreciate who we are as Black people. And I was surprised that they published the article.
Wow.
So it's like, and then all of the inmates would say, Jones, you got an article published in the Chronicle? I mean, that was big news for a young brother.
Yeah.
But I realized then, prior to writing that letter, that I became aware of who I was as a Black man, my purpose in this life, who I was and whose I was. And that continued to compel me to just acquire more and more knowledge.
Okay. So so along this path, the next question that I got is, when do you meet Mama Aneb, or when does Dr. House begin instruction with you all?
Well, I met her, we stayed at Ionia the same year that the college classes came in. We got transferred because we had aged out from Ionia to Jackson. We were transferred to Jackson, which at the time, Jackson State Prison was the largest prison in the world.
Wow.
Large security prison in the world.
How many, when you talk about large, how many inmates were there?
I would say about 7,000.
Wow.
And that's a lot of folks walking around. The largest prison in the world.
So in this path of, like, enlightenment that you're taking through knowledge, how does that impact the reality of what you're facing while incarcerated? As I've uplifted this the most all the time. Like, I think, you know, I mean, it's TV and it's movies and all of this stuff that you see, but I think the anxiety of being incarcerated would weigh a whole lot on my personality, and I think a lot of people that I know, because it's just the machismo between men. You don't know, you know what I'm saying, like something as casual as oh, I see you got a letter today, and it's like, okay, is this a danger situation? Is this a cordial situation? Like, I think that would be something that would leave me on edge all the time. And I, you know, and to this day, a lot of guys I know, don't like being in open spaces, want to be like in corners. Like, it's just certain things are just getting settled from the barbaric situation that arises, because I think the conditions kind of create that.
Right.
As you become more enlightened, how are you balancing just the state of that, especially now going to a space with so many more inmates?
Right. Well, as I began to read more, again, Pope Wright encouraged me to continue to read. And I became comfortable and focused,
Mm.
zero focus on increasing my knowledge.
Okay.
Because he said that's the one thing that they will never be able to take away from you. And ironically, I talked with a lot of brothers who were return visitors.
Mm.
I couldn't understand why
Yeah.
that you would be treated so badly, but then turn around and return.
Yeah.
And I made myself a promise that this would never, ever happen again. And so when we transferred to Jackson, the Jackson Community College had a college program going on there.
Yeah.
So I signed up for that, got approved, and started taking college classes from Jackson Community College, and got my associate degree from Jackson Community College. And that was in 72. So in 74 is when Wayne State offered to come in and offer a bachelor's degree from their weekend college program at the time. And Aneb was one of the professors in that program.
Wow.
And so I learned later on that they had a staff meeting, and whoever was conducting the staff meeting asked the professors who would be willing to go up to Jackson State Prison to provide the weekend college program, which would allow brothers to get their bachelor's degree. And everybody looked around, and then Aneb stood up.
Mm.
Said, yeah, I'll go up.
Yeah.
I'm going to help these brothers.
Yeah.
So, and when she came in, that's where our connection began, because she also brought in the brother Charles Thornton to assist, and Andre Furtado. So they were the three professors that came in and taught the classes for the 2 years in order for us to get our bachelor's degree.
Okay, definitely, and man, it's rocking my mind too of the professor that ended up on a track at U of M, and one of the brothers that she taught in that program. But as I always say, like, Mama Neb's life is just that as a superhero,
Right.
absolutely, like, superhero.
Absolutely.
So over this time, as you have that laser focus and you're taken to this knowledge, and now getting connected to definitely the work and some of the things that Mama Neb is doing, what impact does that what impact does that have on the brothers that are serving time there with you? Like, how are they looking at you? What's those relationships?
Well, there was approximately 20 brothers who were enrolled in the Wayne State program, and we all completed it, finished, had a ceremony, and we ready to go.
That's beautiful.
And the time of the bachelor's degree, I was approaching the 10th year of my sentence, which means I was coming up on eligibility for parole. And so the time couldn't have been better. And then so the parole board sent me a letter indicating that they would be willing to do an interview for me for possible parole. And of course, Aneb testified. During the interview, they had what they call public comments, public review of a person's prison record, which means anyone in the public community can come in and observe, but also anyone that supported someone's release would be able to come in and make comments on behalf of the brother, indicating why they thought it would be appropriate for them to receive a parole. Of course, Aneb came in, Charles came in, and Andre came in and made comments along with other folks. And of course, I would say 6 months after that parole board hearing, I was granted a parole.
Wow. Okay. All right. Granted parole. What's the focus? Where you at? How does I guess the biggest question, even before we get with that, in that time, a lot has changed. You've grown older, but also Detroit has shifted at that time. What are some of the things that stand out to you about that time in Detroit? And I'm guessing that is that 78 or 79?
No, that was 76.
Okay, 76. So in
70.
76, what starts standing out in your mind about 1976 Detroit?
Well, of course, the excitement and joy that I'm going to be leaving here, but it took additional 2 years
Oh man,
to process
all the paperwork. It's like
all the
oh man.
paper.
Okay, so
So I wasn't actually released until July of 78.
okay, so 78, you touched down. What's standing out about this Detroit at that time?
Well, when I came home, when my parents picked me up from Jackson, and we're coming now 94.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is like a whole new world for me. 12 years of not having anything to do with the street. Now, I was allowed to participate in a workman's program while I'm waiting for the paperwork to be completed.
Yeah.
And I was working at a hotel in downtown Jackson. So that allowed me to kind of get acclimated, and that's what they always encourage. You've been gone that long, we need to allow you to blend into the community.
Yeah.
But the day of my actual release, going down 94, and I'm just amazed at what I'm seeing. And as we're coming into Detroit, I'm looking up the buildings. It's like, wow, this is it. I'm finally home.
Wow.
Dropped me off at my mom's house, and Dad takes off, have lunch, and then I told my mom I'll be back. So I started walking because I'm just absolutely amazed and absorbing all this beauty. So my mother lived on Prairie and Linden on the west side.
Okay.
And so I go down to Linden to Livernois and just started walking. And every sister I saw, I spoke to her.
No, I bet you did.
Every sister I saw, I spoke to her. I even went into some of the stores just to speak.
Wow.
Hey, sister, you look so good today. You're such a beautiful queen. And I walked and walked and walked and didn't realize that I had walked from Livernois and Linden down to 94.
Wow. So anybody that knows that distance, that's like Livernois and Linden. It's so funny. It's a studio I know over there, but that's like what would be a good landmark for people. So I would say Livernois and Linden is where, if you old enough, you remember the first Barden Cable
right,
office was like over in that pocket right over there.
Right.
And Livernois in 94, as we know, that's like the I call it like the splintering. That's like the black Southwest Detroit and everything. So like, so man, you were walking.
I just walked.
Wow.
I just loved, and it was hot. I mean, this was a summer, July day.
Okay.
And I just walked and didn't feel no, and when I looked up, said, where am I?
Yep.
94. So I started going back.
Yeah, going backwards, yeah.
Right. And so we did that, went back home, and I wasn't tired because the component, when I was in prison, a couple of things happened. One, my anger became so strong and so intense that I read 2 books. And one of the books was The Prince of Machiavelli. And the second book that I read was In the Belly of the Beast. Now, my anger at that point was so intense that it was fascinating. And after reading Belly of the Beast, I became so angry that I made a declaration of fighting racism from that day forward. And in fighting racism, I realized that mentally my mind was airtight. I mean, because by that time I read close to 6,000 books.
Wow.
And when I made that declaration that something had to be done, and I made myself the person that was going to make something happen, do something different. And I started training. Now, the training consists of, again, I wasn't out of shape, but I wasn't in shape either.
Yeah.
So I started running. And while prior to starting the college program, we were in a typical cell. Now, if you got promoted to or allowed to go to college, then I was transferred to what they call an honor block. And in the honor block, you had a little bit more freedom. The cells were open at 6 o'clock, but you didn't have to be in them until 10.
Okay.
So I had all day long to just be out, which contrary to folks in other cell blocks, they were restricted. If they let them out for lunch, that was okay, say for a couple of hours. Let them out for dinner, a couple of hours. But in the Arnold block, you were able to stay out of your cell, stay in the block or on the yard, whatever it is. To do that, you just had that. That was a privilege because you was considered an honor convict. And so I started running. I got some boots and just started running and running. And every day until the time I left, I ran 365.
Wow.
Because again, my intensity was preparation for war. And so I had to be in the best shape that I could be in. And the only way that was going to happen was training, was intensity. And I started running, I started handballing, I started doing everything that was a part of physical condition. I enjoyed watching sports. And so tennis was one of the sports that I never played, but I enjoyed watching it.
Okay.
And so part of my conditioning is that I had one of the brothers to teach me how to play tennis. And when I started learning how to play tennis, I would hit the ball so hard that the brother said, what's going on, Jones? But for me, because I declared war on racism, every time I hit the ball, I was hitting the head of a white racist.
Wow.
Every time I hit the ball, it was the head of a white racist. It didn't matter who the racist was. It was a white racist. That was part of my anger towards racism.
Wow. Man, so in this training, you were definitely in a physical and mental shape of this. And now, after, yeah, that's miles. That's miles of walking. Because I mean, really, in reality, that could be, depending upon how lights stop you, that could be like a 12-minute drive,
Yeah.
So that is like day one.
Right.
And as that is crystallized, what does that turn into as far as like your ways of how you felt like you could combat racism at that time, as you get a lot more acclimated to being back in Detroit?
Right. Well, the other thing that I didn't mention while still in prison, Charles Thornton, one of the professors that came in,
Yeah.
he brought in a visitor, a lecturer one night. And the lecturer was a brother by the name of Jamal. Now, at the time, he was one of the generals of Nelson Mandela's army. And we were mesmerized.
Wow.
I mean, here the brothers are in prison, and here's a living general. Now, we all knew about Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
And he was telling us about what was going on with him and the issues and the fight, et cetera. And then after his lecture, he asked all the brothers in the room, what are you going to do when you get out? And so everybody made comments. And when he came to me, I said, I'm going to be an urban terrorist. And he looked and said, young brother, I can appreciate your passion. I can appreciate your desire, but that's not the way. Our leader teaches us that violence is not going to save us. The only thing that's going to save us is using our mind, because they can't destroy our mind. So I would encourage you when you get out is to go to graduate school, get a license, and then teach our people about the system. That's part of our fight because they have more guns than we do.
It's interesting that you bring that up, and I'm guessing at that time, back to like as we talk about movements, South African apartheid, and definitely the story of Nelson, and I think I don't think Winnie Mandela is uplifted as much sometimes, so I feel like she needs to be. But there are other independence movements happening throughout Africa against colonization at the time. The Mau Mau's and many others, even definitely rest in peace, Patrice Lumumba. Like the organizing of that is happening in that time, 60s, 70s. So those relationships, seeing what begins, I think, the roots of a lot of Pan-Africanism really manifests in that time. And you're connecting to that, and you are given those words, and I'm guessing you take that and say, okay, teaching will be the path that I can empower my people to fight this battle.
Right, right. Well, my initial thought was just to physically
Yes.
do battle. But then he was older, he was wiser. And of course, when you have wise brothers teaching, he said, this is what I would suggest.
Yeah, you should take heed.
And I took heed. He said, young brother, this is what I need you to do.
Yeah, because I was going to say, yeah, because if that would have been known, I definitely don't think your parole hearing goes the same either.
Absolutely.
You know.
Go to graduate school, get a license, because the license allows you to navigate the system.
Okay.
To understand the system. And when you understand and you can navigate the system, that gives you more power to help our people.
Okay. So, so teaching, and even to this day, it's always uplifted that there are so few Black male teachers. You know, it's, you know, like you can, as a Black man, like you can literally go through like from preschool to getting a doctorate, and maybe probably if you can count on more than one hand the amount of Black male teachers you have, it's phenomenal. So like that role itself plays something different. How did you navigate into that space of education? What was that journey like for you?
Well, I had made a decision while still incarcerated that I was going to go to graduate school. My original focus was Michigan State.
Okay.
Because, you know, there was more brothers and sisters at Michigan State. And U of M, I wasn't particularly in favor of the culture there. You know, at that time, bourgeois and folks thought they were better and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to be no part of that.
Okay.
I want to be where the action is at.
Okay.
And so I wrote a thesis, 250-page paper on prison. And that was my thesis. Now, the advisor that came up to discuss that, she was from U of M.
Okay, there you go.
And so after we talked, she asked me, well, where are you going to go for graduate school? I said, I'm thinking about MSU. She said, no, you need to come to Michigan.
Okay.
We need young Black men like you in Michigan. I said, bet. And she said, when you get out, you know, look me up and we're going to get you connected. And so when I came home, I called U of M, got the paperwork, the application to apply for graduate school. In 68, got accepted, completed all the paperwork, got accepted, and started classes in September of 79.
Okay.
Now, ironically, during the orientation process, white female went over the requirements, et cetera, et cetera. She said, well, before you actually start in September, we need to make sure that you have the ability to do the paperwork.
Interesting.
And so you've got to take a summer class so that we can assess, you know, your skill set. No big deal. I'm ready for anything and everything. So took the class in the summer and aced it. Of course, because I enjoy talking, I was selected as the spokesperson for our particular group. And the teacher gave us an A+.
Wow.
And so in September of 79 is when classes actually started. It was, and there was two options. One option was a 2-year program or a 1-year program. And I'm thinking, I don't need to be in no 2 years. Give me the 1-year program.
Yeah.
But the 1-year program required 3 additional classes. So as opposed to part-time for 2 years, you're going full-time, but you have to take at least 8 classes. Hey, no big deal.
I was going to say you definitely have expressed and shown your way to knowledge and spending time at it. So
exactly.
There you go.
So a year, 12 months. So started in September of 79, graduated in December of 80.
Okay.
And from there, went to start working at Concerned Citizens Council, which is a community-based nonprofit organization. But during the time that I was at U of M, 2 field placements, one in Lansing and one was in Ann Arbor, offered me a position once I graduated. And I'm saying, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to prison. I didn't do all this to sit behind a desk. I need to be in the street.
Yeah.
I need to be where the action is at. I need to be amongst the sisters and the brothers teaching. And so I declined that and accepted the position with Concerned Citizens Council because, again, it wasn't about money. It was about what I had made a promise to myself that I need to be about the business of fighting racism and teaching the sisters and brothers, teaching them how to fight.
Okay. All right. So at that point, now navigating, and I know it's been, we're at many parts in life, but as you begin that professional journey, and now I guess we can kind of look at like taking some time, just like let's go like from the 80s through the 90s. What are you finding the most impactful ways of sharing some of the knowledge that you have and pouring into community? What's happening in that 1980s is I'm born in 82, so the way that it's uplifted and spoken about, certain things happen that impact, especially the Black community, in very impactful ways during that decade. But with it, how are you navigating? How are you pouring into community during that time?
Well, one of the things that was important to me is to acquire, again, as much knowledge as I could. And one of the areas that I was short on knowledge was substance abuse. So I started working in the Salvation Army in the substance abuse program to acquire that knowledge.
And this is from and this is throughout the 80s. So you're watching, if you're doing that in the 80s, as I've always uplifted, I think one of my favorite art forms of hip hop has created the idea of the way that crack cocaine is used as something that's different than I think the origin of how it was first presented to many people, because cocaine itself at the time in the 70s, it's like this is like a glamour, it's like champagne on New Year's Eve, and it's like, hey, this is like a cheaper version of that. The detrimental impacts of that, along with what's happening in post-industrial America, along with what happens with Reaganomics, really impacts our community in very impactful ways. But substance abuse and even the way that it was looked at then amongst our people was definitely seen as that was criminal acts and not seen as the illness and supported in the way that we'll see other substances be looked at. I just always got to uplift.
Right. So throughout the 80s, I worked at various companies, again, enhancing the skill, substance abuse, mental health, hospitals, etc. So I'm acquiring a lot of knowledge that I didn't have prior to, but with each position that I held, and someone mentioned that there's another position, because again, at the time, there's always been a scarcity of Black males with a degree.
Yeah.
Who had the knowledge base. And so I would often be called, and Matt, would you come? And of course, my position, my purpose here is to teach and help our people. So I had various positions at different organizations, inpatient, substance abuse, hospital, inpatient, outpatient, substance abuse, mental health positions, and had that. So at the end of the 80s, I stopped working and went independent as an independent practitioner and opened my own practice of providing mental health and substance abuse services. And during the late 80s, early 90s, I taught a class at Wayne State and Marygrove College on social work.
Wow. Okay. And as this is transitioning, I definitely always like when I think of like that early 90s, and shout out to Dr. Jesse Brown and everything, but you also have a movement of you know, like Dick Gregory and what Dick Gregory is offering with his health products and things like that. So how were people taking to your private practice as far as like having that understanding of what you're offering to the people in healing and mental health, and also knowing what's happening with substance abuse? How are people responding to your to what you're offering?
Well, people responding quite well. But ironically, every patient I saw that first 2 years had a subconscious fear of racism.
Mm.
I wasn't surprised by it because when we look at the orientation and the brainwashing that Black folks have been subjected to, that the fear of white folks, the fear of racism subconsciously is still there.
Can you give me an example of how you would know that? And as you say, like it was subconscious to them. How did you see it, and then how did you even present to them like, okay, you know that a lot of this deals with that?
Right. Well, I would ask questions
Mhm.
because as a clinician, one of my best skills is asking questions. And so if someone presented themselves with, say, depression or anxiety, then I'll get some history and then ask them about their feelings for what's going on in society and their feelings about white folks. And they kind of hesitated.
Yeah.
But then once I started educating and explaining to them the role that racism played in their lives and in the community, they were shocked. It's like I was talking French
Mm.
because they had never heard a Black professional before talk about racism in the manner that I was talking about racism, how it impacted their life. And this is the way that you can go about living a fruitful, meaningful life by understanding what racism is, but not to fear racism anymore. We can navigate the system around racism, but you have to first acknowledge who you are as a person.
So that naturally leads to a couple questions that immediately come to mind. In this time, are you like aware of some of the works or lectures from like a Dr. Ben, a Dr. Amos Wilson, a Dr. Francis Cross Welsing? Neely Fuller's not a doctor, but definitely man, a lot in that world. Are you like are you aware of their works? Did you connect with any of that?
I was aware of their work.
Okay.
In addition to a lot of others, because again, I'm still reading.
Okay.
I'm still learning because part of that process was going to workshops, going to conferences, because I'm always building on the knowledge base. I know a lot, but I still don't know enough.
Mm.
And each time there's a new skill set, there's a new diagnosis, there's something different or new that's being presented in the profession. So I wanted to make sure that I was exposed to that so that I would use that with the patients that I saw.
And the other question in that time of the 90s, and I think especially with me being connected in media, and I'm a child as this is happening, but it's a very pivotal moment, definitely in American history, is um, during everything with the O.J. Simpson trial. What was I'm sure you're getting caught into like different discussions, but what was your take? What was I can only imagine like during that time you were able to really like unpack layers of things during that time. So I
Right.
just want to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Because by that time, I became known as an expert because people recognize my skill set and recognize my desire to help. And so a lot of organizations would call and ask me to come in and do some group sessions
Mm.
to educate the workforce, to help ease some of their discomfort about what's going on in their lives.
Okay, and with that, and I know we're going back in time with this, but I do want you to give an analysis on why do you think that. And I got my own opinions, as many people do, but why do you think that that case was so like really put like such more of a spotlight on race in America and racism in America more than like so many other things have.
Right. Well, you're looking at it black and white. Because of racism is so prevailing, black folks looked at him as a potential victim. White folks looked at him as a perpetrator. And of course, we always want to root for the brother or the sister who we perceived as being unjustly charged, being mistreated, not because of something they may or may not have done, simply because of the color of their skin. Because if you're black in America, then you're guilty until proven innocent. And so the country was fixated by the trial because black folks rooted for OJ, white folks rooted for a conviction. And when the conviction did not happen, white folks were disillusioned. They were angry. They were upset because a black man got away with murdering a white female, one of our princesses.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I can only assume that, yeah, at that point in time, with what you do, it was a lot of phone calls and a lot of sessions because,
Right.
you know, I mean, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm a kid at that time. Like, people remember certain moments in life. So as this carries on in that work, what have been now your book today? What's what do you have in it? How do you feel people, especially like black folks, need to navigate these systems around racism now? What's the best way to recognize who we are, but also be empowered in navigating these systems?
Well, that was the primary purpose for writing it. Colleagues had been telling me over the years, Matt, now, ironically, none of the individuals that I was associated with or friends knew I went to prison.
Wow.
It was not public knowledge. But because of my ability to navigate and my skill set and communication, they just felt, you got an interesting story. And so I decided to sit down and do the memoir, but I wanted to tell the whole story from the beginning of Detroit until the day that I got released.
Wow.
And the trials and tribulations along the way. Now, the purpose of the book is simply to educate, to give brothers and sisters some insight about the potential of who they can become. Because I realized prior to prison, I was just an average black youth in America doing what white folks said I should be doing, which is fitting into this white box. Is where you deserve to be at. You don't deserve to be treated like a human being, like someone who's intelligent with respect. But because I had no one at that time in my ear telling me that I was important, that you are brilliant, that you can be whatever it is that you wanted to be. The average African-American person in this country decides that they want to fit into that white box. Why? Because that's what the white media is propagating. That's what they're communicating, that you don't amount to a whole lot. And because of that orientation, that's the reason why the majority of black folks have this subconscious fear of racism, because they've never heard a counter to that. That's all they've heard. Generationally, that's what they get from their parents. The emotional turmoil that a mother may experience while she's pregnant with their child, that's transferred to the child. And most people wonder, why is he or she angry as a kid? Well, ask mom's emotional state at the time that she was carrying the child.
Yeah.
That's transferred. And so the ability to understand that was critical for me to teach that. And so when we look at the lives of black folks, we have to help them to understand where racism fits into your life.
Wow.
Why it fits into your life and what it is that you can do. Because you're not a has-been. You are a person who is wise. Your ancestors, and I always have to share this with the brothers and sisters, your ancestors built a foundation that still exists today, 7,000 years later. You're connected to that. Because life as we know it was generated from where? From Africa. Same place that our ancestors was taken from. But if you don't see the connection or understand the dynamics of the connection, then of course the only thing you're exposed to is what white folks have always taught us. To just fit in this white box that we've created for you, and that's where you're supposed to be. That's where you're supposed to stay.
Okay. All right. So with that, as we get to this close, title of the book and where can they get it?
The title of the book, Fire in My Belly. And the book is available on Amazon and other bookstores. Now, if someone wanted to contact me or get in touch with me for workshops or what have you, my website is Matthew, MATTHEWD, as in David, JonesJr.com.
Okay.
And that's where the landing page of that book and 5 other books that I've written over the years about helping people, because each of the books that I've written over the years were all based upon how my people can benefit.
Executing the vision that you where you manifested that purpose and took initiative on it.
Absolutely.
All right. So classic Detroit is different questions now. One you kind of sort of already answered, I assume, but I'll get the real answer, or the full answer, I should say, not the real. But very first car, year, make, and model, year you got it.
Was a Ford Skylark.
Okay. All right.
In 66.
Okay. Yeah, if you still had that and it was clean, man. Where's the first place you went when you got it?
I took this girl for a ride.
Oh, there you go. There we go. All right. The next question. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks. You get to play 2 songs, Woodward and Jefferson. What songs you playing?
Keep on Pushing.
I love that.
And the other song was We Can Make It.
Okay. All right. Okay. I like the uplifting. But yeah, Keep On Pushing. Actually, Maureen Taylor had some impressions the other day when she shouted out "People Get Ready," but we gonna love some Curtis Mayfield over here, But and the last one, you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
Good question. Coleman Young.
That's who's usually getting the name all the time.
Coleman Young.
Why Coleman for you?
Well, I admired Coleman. From the very first time while in prison, we watched the congressional hearing. And when Coleman basically told these white folks, you can kiss my butt.
Well,
you don't have no stool pigeon here. You got a black man who knows who he is and knows how to talk and communicate with white folks. And so from that moment on, Coleman has always stood by his principles of working for the black community.
Always. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Peace.